Well, Pastor Renee Ward, R-E-N-E-E, accent over the last E, Ward, W-A-R-D.
Thank you. I'm going to set my timer because I'll just go on forever. If you don't mind me asking, are you from this neighborhood?
I am a longtime resident since I was 4 years old.
Okay.
I'm the former chief of staff for the District 43, which this represents,
Okay.
back in 2007 to 2009.
Oh, great.
Local clergy.
Okay. And do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I'm proud to say I'm 62 years old.
All right. So you've been in this neighborhood for a while, and you've seen a lot of the reason why we're asking people their age is to understand the transition of this history.
Certainly.
And, when people are getting mic'd up, I'm able to tell them a little bit about what we're doing, but hopefully you know a little bit about the Alberta Abbey, and this is a burgeoning nonprofit that's trying to connect the community, through opportunities for creatives, to artists and musicians to have a space, and the mission is to create this space to be able to give it back to the community. And so part of what we're trying to do is understand where the community is, where the community is at right now, and how we could serve the community based on the history of this building being a service-oriented congregation and things like that.
Certainly.
So did you grow up going to the Mallory Church, or do you?
Sure, let me help you a little bit. I can
Okay.
give you some history.
Okay, thank you.
So I used to be one of the associate pastors here.
Okay.
I was very good friends with the late Pastor Dr. Hamlin,
Okay.
who passed the baton on to Pastor Frederick Woods. I served alongside of him, as well as some other folks that you'll talk with. While we were here, we did a lot of engagement. This served as of course, community epicenter,
Yeah.
especially under the guidance of Pastor Frederick Woods, who was the last pastor at this location. So this location served not only for homeless ministries, it was engaged with, back in the day, I worked alongside Pastor Woods, working with at-risk youth and young adults, reentry. It served as a hub for a number of different disenfranchised individuals. This was a place they could come and feel safe. We also did, of course, the homeless ministry as best we could. Oftentimes the gym, we even tried to use it as a place for sleepovers, for outreach for food. So many of the things that you see contemporary now were back then was happening, but a lot of bureaucracy kept us from being able to do what we could effectively do for the community. Alongside of that, historically, this was also the Y. I think it was the YMCA at one time, even prior to Dr. Aaron Hamlin having it. So it's been used for quite a few things historically. Some civil rights meetings have taken place here as well. Again, back in 2007, when I was at that time Chief of Staff working with then Representative Chip Shields for this district, we had town forums here, which I co-facilitated. There have been, of course, artists that have, some well-named artists that have performed here. So it's been a multifaceted venue. So as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. So a lot of things that, of course, you're trying to do now have already happened. And that's why I think it's important what you're doing is to be able to talk to people who were firsthand part of the architects of that.
Yeah, well, it would be helpful if we could reach out to you in the future, should we need
Certainly. I probably have, I was a photo bug back then, so I probably have photos of events and things that we did here, and people and funerals. This place also served as, this is holy ground in the sense that this served as a place where when unfortunate gang killings happened and they weren't maybe allowed to be in other churches because of the controversy around the height and depth of what was going on with gang killings, this was a place that funerals could happen for those individuals. So it serves to be quite a historical cornerstone of the community.
If you don't mind, would you be willing to talk again in the future? If I
Certainly.
Do you have an email address?
Yes, you can reach me at Reverend, spelled out Reverend, Renee, Renee, Ward, WARD, at gmail.com.
Okay. You came here when you were 4, you said?
4 years old.
And did you grow up in this part of Northeast?
Oh, yes.
And so were you involved in some of the after-school programs and things?
I went to private school, but I was also engaged both in the church. The community is quite different, so even though you see the multiple churches, we were all connected in capacity on a Sunday. It was different.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, I also worked for the Mississippi Historic District Target Area Project when I moved back after finishing college. And I was one of the folks who spearheaded trying to be like Paul Revere and saying the British is coming, but I was saying gentrification is coming. So I also worked in that capacity. So what you see along Alberta, there were several meetings I held to try to engage not only the Black community, but again, underserved communities that were going to be impacted.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's exciting to me to be a part of this is the mission being about trying to get to a place where the building becomes a community asset and isn't run by like a parachute organization or something like that. And a part of what we're trying to do is create a space where people kind of feel like it's theirs. And my understanding from talking to people and the things that I've been finding in the records is when you were a kid, this was, you know, when we were kids had freedom in a way, and they were like, they kind of had to run in the neighborhood.
Right, like the Boys and Girls Club, which is down the street.
Yeah.
It was a safe place you could go.
Yeah, and then there were these people who people remember, like Willie Stoudemire or Reverend Woods, or, you know, there was these people that created space for community, but there was also like community outside of this place. And I wonder, when you were a kid, you know, middle school or things like that, where would be some of the places you would go during the summer?
Well, I'll say for my kids, even for my kids, they had PAL, Police Activities League. Again, it was held right there at the Boys and Girls Club. It was held at different schools before there was the Sun School. We had TLC, which was run by Mr. I'm looking at him right now. The wrestler. Oh my goodness, I can't believe Roy Pittman. Mr. Roy Pittman, who taught, and Peninsula Park. The parks were the place to go. So each park had within that community of the neighborhood kids. It was designated. You know, I grew up on what they call G Street, which is Gantvine, which is about 4 or 5 blocks over to the west here. And yeah, so I mean, we were all interconnected. There were some natural barriers, if you want to say, but this, you know, Martin Luther King was Union Avenue, and you know.
So the parks were places that a lot of folks.
Oh, definitely, and then more importantly, the churches. The churches were, and still continue to be, a centerpiece. So. And
when you were a kid, did you come to Mallory Church for any of the programs?
Oh yes, there was always ecumenical. Interdenominational activities happening at different churches.
It sounds like you're really familiar with churches right now here, and back when all the times that you've been here. Is there, there's a lot of different places here, and it sounds like there's oftentimes where there's fellowship between churches and things like that. If I would imagine there's a certain culture within each one that might be slightly different. What was the culture here at different times that might have been different from other places?
I think basically it's because of denomination. I think that's one of the probably significant. The culture of it is the denomination, and so just the rituals of how worship is. But there is a common vein that all of the faith-based churches, you know, Bible-based, Christ-centered, and God-purposed in community and family.
And why do you think when there was gang violence, the Mallory Church was the place that you could have these communities?
Well, that was because of the leadership of, at that time, Pastor Frederick Woods, who himself had come out of incarceration, had the connectivity with the families. He knew many of the families that were impacted by these unfortunate deaths. And so he could connect with them. So it was relationship.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's he kind of fell into something that had a history. You know, a lot of what we're talking to people and people involved.
Well, he created the culture for Mallory. Prior to Mallory, he created that culture of acceptance. Mm-hmm. Mallory before that was just like any other church, but it was his persona and his ministry and the people he empowered.
Mm. So there was a moment under his leadership where it was more open and
oh, definitely.
It was more service oriented.
Almost definitely. And you have to remember Portland, the small percentage of African Americans that live here at that time were just maybe 4 or 5 degrees of separation of being related to one another. So you had cousins killing cousins and all that type of stuff. So it was just natural that it coalesced and people came together. Yeah. We knew each other.
Yeah. But I want to be sensitive to your time, and I really
I want to be sensitive to the speaker that's coming up.
Yeah. And
but you can call me.
I would like to hook up with you in the future.
Sure.
But I think something that's really important to us is to try to understand, like, what do you feel like an institution like this, or, you know, it's in its infancy, really. What do you think a place like this could do, and what does, like, Portland need, or the Northeast community need that we could maybe help with?
I think one of the things is continued conversations. A person that you wasn't asked, but she's downstairs, is a great person to talk to, contemporary, is Donna Maxey with Race Talks. I would strongly encourage you to connect with her at some given point. Also, having conversations isn't helpful if one is not, you're listening but you're not hearing. I've been in this setting several times over the course of the last 30 years, and if you're not listening and then engaging and then acting upon what is shared and it's not just tabled and filed away, mm-hmm. then it serves no purpose. Yeah. And it just reharms what and re-traumatizes all over again, mm-hmm. a community that's already been negatively impacted.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the specific things that you think need to be resourced right now? You know, I think that's
right now, I think history, you know, narratively, that's how we tell. What you're doing is probably the best, mm-hmm. and taking advantage while you have the folks that like Mr. Knowles, like Donna Maxey, like elders, mm-hmm. while they're still here, to get those conversations, and then even the next generation of elders like myself, I'm now an elder, and then the young folks, you know, what they see through their eyes too, because they're the ones who really will be utilizing this, and they need to have that voice too.
Yeah, well, it's so wonderful to have the occasion to do this. It's tough to do 8-minute things,
yeah.
You know, when there's people with like 30 years, 40 years worth of it.
Certainly.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
Thank you for the time.
This. Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.